This week's episode of Bonfireside Chat is brought to you by Latchkey Kingdom, which is a webcomic by Nick Daniel. Check it out if you like epic fantasy, wonderment, enchantment, and humor that is kind of inspired by video games. The art is great. The writing is great. It is really great. That is
whimsy.
Whimsy, I think, is the operative word. Whimsy, leaning on the H. Whimsy with an extra H. But what does have at least one H is the URL, which is latchkeykingdom.com. Check it out. Read it from beginning to end. It is fantastic.
I had to check that real quick. Like, I was like, that doesn't have an H in it.
Yep.
And for people listening, I have it right in front of me. So like, that was literally me not forgetting how to read, but forgetting that I should read when I want to know how a word is spelled. So,
to be fair, you go blind when you speak.
Yes, yeah. I can only do one sense at a time.
Speaking is a sense?
Yep. A sense of voice, a sense of taste. Taste my words. And also taste Latchkey Kingdom.
Yep. We'll tell you a little bit more about it into the episode, but once again, that is latchkeykingdom.com.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a cursed favorite.
And this week we are continuing our discussion of King's Field 4, the ancient city, where we talk real weird.
Yes, we do. So we're the last two episodes will be a good guide for this, and we're just going to hit the ground running and just kind of keep going.
Yeah.
Previously, we entered the ancient city proper, and cleared the evil from the forest folk and earth folk areas. And now we're turning our attention deeper into the city, where the expedition forces were last seen.
Yes. For the water folk, the air folk. Yeah, the water folk.
The heart folk and the wood folk.
Yeah.
Metal folk, depending on where you're at.
The dust folk, the magnet folk.
Yeah. What elemental spheres? We're on the elemental folk of salt.
Yeah. No. The crash folk.
Yeah.
Tengu folk.
Yeah. Tomahawk folk.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, these areas are vaguely demarcated by the floor on the center tower, but the tower segments are pretty amorphous, right? It's a lot of corridors and stuff. So we're going to be walking around a bit.
Yes. And there's not too much to say about a lot of this connecting tissue.
No.
When we're in the tower. One of the things I think I mentioned in the last episode is that you can see some Demon Souls shortcut structure in this, and most of that expresses itself through the tower. So there are like one-way doors and gates that you can only open from one side. You'll run into those, and it makes backtracking easier.
Bridges you can drop.
Yep. Yeah, bridges are a big thing.
Yeah.
So
specifically, you find these stones that let you drop bridges. That is what they do.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one NPC down here who is kind of this scholar who's like, what the hell are you doing here? This isn't a place for humans.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's no food here. Like, you're just in an empty room with one table. Where's your Xbox, bro?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You don't even have a computer.
At least the last random dude we found was like here to fight specifically. Like he wanted to retire to Valhalla. So yeah.
This guy doesn't even have like exploding barrels surrounding him. He's just there. He's a weird NPC. I thought this guy would be more lore significant than he is. Like he kind of drops a important nugget, but there's not much more you can get out of him.
Yeah. What's the important nugget? That the different areas are for different professions?
More that the undead are cursed forest folk.
Oh, okay.
The undead you're running into are and which we knew.
Yeah.
But we know that partly because of genre savviness and such.
Yeah.
So,
corrupting and all of that. There's some, little puzzles you have to do to get the yellow guide stone. Lots of hidden walls. Again, just make sure that you bump up against every wall. It's like Wolfenstein.
Yep,
eventually you'll find something. Yeah, doom humping.
Doom humping. To shoot that doom wad. But eventually you make your way to the engineer's quarters.
Which actually is one of the few places that looks like a dwelling.
Mm-hmm.
has cots and such.
Yeah, has cots, has computers, Xboxes, and stuff. People live here.
That's where Shane's Xbox went.
Yeah.
Did we mention the previous guy's name was Shane?
Yeah, he's got one. Shane Floyd. Hello.
He's got a foreign
name. Yeah, there's this area is you run into a really useful merchant when you're here. And this is the point you've got in the notes. I'm glad you had this because this occurred to me too. Is where money no longer matters. Like at this point, like you don't even really need to. Like I wanted a bottomless box because I just had so many just dumb weapons I didn't need anymore, and ended up selling them just to make room. But I didn't need the money at this point. And the important thing is he sells you a yellow wand to go along with your yellow guide stone, giving you a 4 at this point, I think.
Yeah, 4 bookmarks that you can go back to. The game just throws like equipment at you at such a rapid pace that I was changing armor. It felt like every room, and only a certain number of sets actually had a mechanical like benefit or significance. So I just made notes of those, the ones I wanted to keep around. Then I sold everything else, which meant that I was only limited by how far I got from a merchant for things like herbal liquids and such. But even that, is just just use Earth Heal.
Yeah.
Antidotes are pretty important.
I had 99 herbs with me just because it's instant, and if I didn't have stamina, like I could heal that way. But it was never a problem to buy them. That's one of the things about the equipment kind of line in this game is that I don't want it to be more even. I don't want better equipment in the beginning because the first couple hours where you're really underpowered are really thrilling. I just think they could have really scaled back on what you're the kind of Monty Hall section here in the middle. Can
you elaborate on that lesson or on that reference? Because I know Monty Hall as D&D guy, but is he like Diablo levels of throw loot at you guy or?
It is in D&D. That's what it's referencing. It's referencing a game show.
Okay. Monty Cook is who I'm thinking of, right?
Yeah, Monty Cook was a designer for D&D, but Monty Hall is a style of DMing where you just shower the players with treasure for no good reason.
Right.
My very first D&D campaign, I played with a guy who did that, and the coolest thing I got was a treasure chest that was tiny, like the size of like a Monopoly piece, but then when I used the keyword, it got giant, like the size of a sofa.
Yeah.
And the only thing I would do with it, I never kept anything with it, would be to throw it and then say the word while it was in the air, and then just toss this like gigantic treasure chest at people.
That sounds like an anime weapon.
I know, like some kind of chestomancer, like yeah.
A non-sexual chestomancer. Yeah.
Storables, containers, etc.
Yeah.
Wizard. Yeah.
A crate and barrel and bottomless bag.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay, so this marks a fantastic occasion, Gary, where you made a reference to something and I didn't recognize it as being from 50s or 60s television.
And it was.
I know.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, good. Way to not know.
Am I growing? Is this progress, Gary?
It's something.
It's something. Yeah. But this is Jamark Neely. He's from you saw him earlier. This guy with the big crate on his back, mysterious purposes, but he winds up in the craziest places.
Yeah.
And right now he's in the big tunnel burrow of this gigantic bug, which I think might be the biggest boss except for the one that you end up in at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, the boss you end up in. He's optional too, which I like.
Really?
Like the game the giant bug? Yeah. He's in a side room. Like you don't have to get that earth crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, I was like, oh, I bet you I can kill that thing. I better try. And that's why I did it. I like this boss a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's stay behind him. He's just, you're taking advantage of his turning radius, but he's just like a gigantic, imposing looking bug. He's not violent and he doesn't come after you unless you come after him.
He looks like scenery when you first walk into that room.
Yeah. Yep. Which I like.
Yeah. But it's a really soulsy fight because of that thing you mentioned, which is you're trying to get behind him. And he is lumbering, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of like an asylum demon style thing.
Yeah. So you leave this area. The optional boss aside, it really is kind of a resting area for what is probably one of the harder places in the game, which the lore refers to as the Room of the Wise Sage.
Yes. Yeah, this is the area where the fire faces are shooting fire up onto the catwalk, right?
Yeah.
And you have to get past that. Yeah.
They're like flame arrow kind of things.
Yeah.
So, and
which do tons of damage.
You have to run through a portion of them. You can't run all the way across, but you just have to hope you can make it to that little stairway down.
And there are those like animate suits of armor down here that will get alerted to you and come up. And the I like kept looking around for like a switch to turn them off because they kill you pretty quick. But
yeah, there are automatons that are also backed up by, there are a lot of trap rooms down here, like strangely long spears that don't have any wobble to them. They just stick straight out and go across a room and spear you.
Yep. These faces, if you are a power gamer, this is the best leveling up place in the game because they infinitely regenerate and they give you tons of XP.
Oh, wow.
And you can just stand there and just tap the button every couple seconds and level up all your weapons if you want to.
Okay.
And it happens relatively quickly, I guess. I mean, relatively quickly. The guy who wrote the guide where I read that said, he's like, yeah, I leveled up all my equipment and got to level 99 in like 2 hours. And I was like, that sounds boring. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And it would ruin, trying to play it for that's not the intended experience. So that would have ruined the rest of my playthrough.
Yep.
But that's what they're here for.
Yeah, this is pretty early to cheese it to 99.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people do that. So.
It's pretty gross. That's 2 hours. Like that's kind of like that room in the Stanley Parable. Yeah. Which I'm just glad someone else did it. But I don't want to do it. Exactly.
In school, the person, I didn't have Final Fantasy IV for a while, and I used to borrow it from this girl I went to school with, and she had a save where all of her characters were all level 99 and had like max stats and stuff. Like she had a game where she had just leveled.
That's bizarre because eventually they start statting down.
Yeah, maybe she did not realize that. When I say max stats, I don't actually have photographic memory from when I was 14.
Okay.
But
But I mean, like I did that with Final Fantasy VII. I was probably around the same age that you guys were.
Yeah, I did. I did the bosses, but I didn't max out my guys.
Yeah, I maxed out my guys. Oh man! But the real meat of this is the boss, who we find out is the Dark Magician. He's kind of one of the four servants of the Dark, but that isn't mentioned until a little bit later. We're going to talk about it in the final episode when we're saying like what the actual Dark Ones are and the fate of this whole society. But this guy, he is a real son of a bitch. Yeah,
this is really hard. I find this boss really difficult. The run up to him is not trivial. If I recall, like the room right outside him with there's like two, like, are they like floating statue ladies?
Like wraith kind of things?
Yeah. There's like two, not insignificant enemies right in front of him. And then there's the run up. This guy's very difficult, and he's interesting. He's more interesting than the other boss we've fought so far. Yeah. Like he kind of lives in a trap room, and he uses a lot of magic against you.
Yeah, it's the most remarkable set piece I think we've seen so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he'll stun you, like his magic exists to bog you down. But the real danger and what I ended up dying to, unfortunately, this isn't caught in my video because my capture card fritzed out because I think it was like so anybody who's using an Elgato game capture HD, don't let a session get above 5 hours. That's just my tip to you. But what I ended up dying to the most, he has this checkered floor, and I think the black ones or the white ones, one of them raise up enough that if you fall off of them, it will do fall damage to you.
Yeah.
And additionally, there are those spears that come out of the wall. So
and arrows. His entire point is to slow you down or stop you so the other hazards can get to you.
Right.
Yeah.
The mad hazards.
Yep.
But I died to him a lot, specifically because it was kind of hard to figure out, and so I forget one of the items. The stat healing items are really, really confusing to me in this for some reason. Mm-hmm. Like some will cure some, but others won't, and like it won't cure what the other ones do. Yeah.
It's not and they are also not something that if I recall, not every merchant has them or has them in unlimited quantities either. So, especially in the thing like the King's Flower or what have you, is I think the thing that heals everything. I believe that's the name of it. It's something you find, you don't buy. Yeah.
So the forest fruit was the one I leaned on, but it's really hard. Like you don't find merchants with it until later.
Yeah, forest fruit. That's what I'm thinking of.
It's like the dragon flower is the one that heals most of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I had a hard time with him too. Yeah. Like, but I actually beat him as opposed to the fire boss that I cheesed. So.
More corridors and stuff here. There's like a little crossbow puzzle. The crossbow is really, really useful. It's like, is it the best range weapon until you get the Widda bow?
Yeah.
And then there's a little hub area too, where you can kind of find Zestari's map. We haven't talked about the maps a lot. Like the first one we got, like the groundskeeper's map was just a static image that you had to discern. The Earth People's map was pretty useless as well. Now you're starting to get ones that actually show you where you're at in relation to the environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never really used this. Like I picked it up, and I think I looked at it once, but I was so used to, the maps being not very useful, and also it kind of gotten my, exploring rhythm down where I didn't really feel like I needed it. Later, I used the final map you get in the game, which is pretty nuts, and we'll talk about that next episode.
Yes, we will.
And I did use that for the ending.
Okay.
To navigate the final boss.
Yeah.
So
by this point, by the time you get the maps that show you where you're at, you've developed a sense of like Dead Reckoning for how to get around for where you go, and just eventually you get that you get that spatial awareness like you do maybe not so much in Demon Souls but Dark Souls. I started getting that feeling where it's like, oh, I actually know where I'm at in relation to these other things,
right?
And so you're like it is a nice little bit of familiarity when you come at a familiar place from a different angle, because you realize kind of how interconnected and stacked all these places are. So it'd be like if you got to the Duke's Archives and found a map of Lordran.
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit late.
Yep.
Do you think what it might have taken away, or if it would have taken anything away if you would have gotten a more useful map earlier on?
I'm happy that I had the experience that I did, honestly. The only thing I can say, I feel like I would have needed a map here more than in the Souls games, because this is first person, and just because that is a really disorienting thing, especially because you turn so slow, and because if something hits you, you just randomize, and I'm walking back through doors I've been through several times before without realizing it. But I can't say, just because, you always like it's the first impression, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
How about you? What do you think?
I agreed. Like, I liked learning, getting the lay of the land myself.
Yeah.
And it kind of has, because enemies don't respawn quickly, an area being free of enemies would kind of be my signal that I'd already been somewhere if I didn't recognize it. So I just kind of moved in the direction of challenge, and it usually worked.
I always put torches up on the right-hand wall. That way I know. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, this kind of gets you, you leave this hub area. There's a big locked door for the Great Graveyard, but there is, no way to get there yet. So all you can really do is cross a bridge over to what looks like more civilization. Huzzah!
Yep. Which is, this is, we're heading into my favorite area of the game. Like this stretch, like these next 3 or 4 areas are my favorite.
Yeah. I would say that, really everything this episode covers is big thumbs up.
Yeah. This is the peak of the game, and the ending is still cool. Like there's still cool stuff in the next episode, but I felt like this was more cohesive and felt more like a more cohesive location, and had kind of a better dungeon ecology than anywhere we'd been before. Yeah. This feels like part of a civilization, and a large civilization, at that, not just kind of, oh, these are the burrows. There are 3 houses, and you kind of have to just do the RPG thing where you imagine a civilization living there, even though you've only killed 20 or 30 of the guys. This actually feels like it could be much deeper.
Right.
Than what it suggests.
And this is a pretty cool lore kind of thing, because, we talk about, hey, this expedition from Helidon or whatever it was. This is as far as they got.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, this is part of what your goal was. Well, not just to replace this idol, but to figure out what happened to the people who came here first. And you find them just broken and scattered and battered with their leader gone.
Yep. Yeah, it's dark times, and the leader is the one you have a personal connection to, even though you wouldn't necessarily know that. I think that's actually, we know it, but I think it's actually said in the manual.
In the manual, yeah. In that introduction we gave it in the first episode.
Yeah. So, yeah, your buddy's no longer here, but all of the people he's been traveling with are just in dire straits and have just been, fucked over.
Yeah.
So...
Mm-hmm. So they're kind of taking refuge in these caverns that are full of gigantic eyeless lizard tadpoles that shoot water cannons at you.
Yeah, those are weird fucking monsters.
Yeah.
When you go through here too, there's also like this like snake tower. This is where the Widda, live, mm-hmm. and that is barred by flames. Mm-hmm. So it's this nice little set piece of like, oh, I need to go here later. It's a little Zelda-y. One of the things I've said about the Souls games before is like they are not puzzle games, and that's something I really appreciate about them. And this whole bit about getting into the tower felt a little tedious to me, but I still like the imposing kind of sense of scale for it. Yeah. It's notable when you find these people; they are in this kind of holding area. Why are they being kept? Why are they being kept alive? Who knows? But they are.
Yeah, well, they're not being kept in. I think that they are trying to keep other people out, and explicitly later on, it becomes clear that this is a way for them to, So this probably was an outpost that was erected, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. They hole up.
Yeah. But you find a bunch of people here with really, with really bland names, including both a Lyle and a Kyle.
Yeah, Lyle and Kyle. The two expedition bros.
Yeah. My favorite down here is, what's his name? Lyle Kagata, who is real. He likes his food.
Yeah.
You get the sense if he tried to take away his turkey leg, you'd pull back a stump. Yeah. And there's no logical place to come back to him, but so we'll just say it now. When you come back after the Widda castle. If it wasn't clear, you go in there. He has barred the door, and he tells you can't come in here. You can't come in here. With it being heavily implied that he ate his buddies because he is so hungry.
Yep, he got driven crazy.
Yeah,
by snake fighters.
He was alive. But if you give him one of the strange eggs, if you find a spare egg, he will give you, I think, the final or one of the final crystal vials. So it is worth your while to make your way back here for that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Kind of moving further on, you also run into another member of the expedition, Kyle Campbell. Lyle's buddy, and he lets you know that your buddy Septiago actually let himself be captured in order to save that group, including that idiot cannibal back there. And Septiago's sword was given to him by the king and is said to banish darkness. Yeah. But he does not have it. You don't get it now. He's just kind of chilling outside of a cave, dying slowly.
Yeah, bleeding out.
Surrounded by wasps. I think there's a bunch of those wasp creatures here.
Yeah.
So,
magic wasps.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really described the area too much. These are the oceanside caverns, and really they are a bunch of tunnels that kind of let out in this vaguely dark corners of the Earthian fashion onto lighthouses and these rocky outcroppings.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take the icon of fire that lights up the lighthouse, which kind of gives you a little bit more visibility into the area. But the main kind of goal. Is the one big building that you can get into that is not blocked off by fire statues, which is this big ocean fort off in the distance. Did you do the optional area here, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the lighthouse is actually optional too. I don't think you have to light up the area.
Oh, really?
I think you can, and I don't think you have to though. That lighthouse is intimidating as shit.
It is. It's really nice.
It looks great. This whole area, out on the beach, is one of my favorite areas in the game. Mm-hmm. And the underwater caves are really stressful too, since you get an item that makes it so you don't have to breathe as much air, but you're never going to be okay. So you're always kind of making these dashes through piranha infested tunnels to get to little pockets of air.
Yeah, and these piranhas can stun lock you.
Yes. Yep. So this was tricky, and it's mostly there's nothing plot significant down here. It's treasure and monsters and stuff. down here, and one NPC who's another weirdo, Paul Hutchison of Hutchison Mattress and
Yeah, I was going to
Bed
say
Supply.
Hutchison Motors.
Yeah, is down here like a castaway.
Yep.
And they're kind of like fishmen who are walking around, and he wants to poison them because they take his food. But fuck me if I'm going to walk all the way back to that guy who runs the poison well.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Mr. Fong or whatever his name was.
Yeah. Crystal vials are too valuable for me to tie. I did actually notice that I could fill up my vial with poison, but then I was like, I don't want this, and then I didn't have any way to get rid of it, so I just drank it. It's like, well, I guess I'm fucked now.
You can't. Too bad these are magic vials that you can't pour out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And like, even if you did do that, so what you get is the Bracelet of Fortune, which I think either gets you more money or experience, per kill. Yeah, more experience. It's the Lucky Charm. That gets you more money that you also find down here. So this is the optional area of superfluous benefits.
Yeah, like things you're not going to take off because you're using the bracelet, the magic bracelet.
Yeah,
that you're going to use. So
you're going to get rid of both your ability to cast magic and also your ability to breathe underwater.
Yeah. In order to get more treasure in this area where you have to breathe underwater.
Yeah.
In a game where you have to use magic.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty. I mean, kind of disappointing. This didn't lead anywhere. I was kind of expecting this to go to another area or something, but it's it is, I like that the game has optional areas, even if they're not my favorite thing.
But Ash Lake, right?
Yeah. But yeah, next up is my favorite actual individual level, which is my favorite stretch of the game, which is the Ocean Fort.
Mm-hmm. This is Sen's Point 5.
Yeah, this is very Sen's Fortressy.
So there's like a little bit of info about the Widda here, just because this is the logical place to bring it up. So you're fighting these snake men, again, Sens, right? These are the Widda. They are an invading force that came in by the ocean and kind of overtook the forest folk that were down here and established their kingdom. Here in the Ocean Fort and in the Widda Palace itself, and they're here specifically to try and harness the dark one, right?
Right.
So
right. Yeah, it's some kind of summoning that they're talking about, like the priest that you run into later.
Yep.
Mentions like bringing the dark one or getting him to awaken, something like that, which is related to what we know. Of just kind of what happened to the city, like the sunken city we run into later. Yeah. But at this point, like the dots aren't necessarily there, for it. So it seems a little bit like odd information. Yeah. But they're really cool. Or one thing that's interesting about them, and we learn about this later, is that they can turn people into them. That's mentioned by an NPC later, and the process we don't know, but that's very creepy. And they have they have a very Conan the Barbarian kind of structure to them. There are especially the old Conan cartoon, he used to go to these cities that looked very similar to this and fight snake warriors, and there were was always a snake priestess kind of thing,
and there was always an effort to transform people into them.
Yep.
The word the worst, the most horrifying plot point that you could put into your fantasy or sci-fi.
Well, that's why why Shadow of Innsmouth is so effective, is because rather than turning you, or it does turn you into it, but it's also doing it through breeding. I'm not going to turn you into it, but we're going to have a kid, and it's going to be part me and part you. Yeah. It's going
to be part me and part you for a little bit, and then all me after that.
Yeah. Yep. That's true.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, this is the kind of the first place you can see that they are an enclave. They're kind of affiliated with the dark. And yeah, they have set up. I don't know if they made the traps. It might have been a forest folk kind of thing. But this is a fun house of things that are out to get you.
Yeah, arrow traps. Tons of floor traps. There's a lot of barely delayed trapdoors. You have to scoop by. A lot of treasure too. And specifically, we're here to get the items that you need to, I guess, disguise yourself that you're a Widda, to walk past those flames.
Yeah.
But you're going to find a lot of really great items here anyway.
The enchanted set is the next step up in your armor until the next step up that you're going to get in about an hour.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, so like this this probably of all the areas kind of bears the most like and then just because it's the biggest variety of environmental hazards, right?
And it does the Dark Souls thing where like in order to get access to everything, you have to succumb to some traps. Like there are things that are only available if you purposely fall down trapdoors.
Yeah.
You know, so like, there's that whole area down in that tar pit where there's actually treasure and things to fight down there. It's not just like a place to go to die. You know, like it's that kind of thing, and that's really cool. Like exploring this area is fairly small, but it's very dense. You know, I spent a long time here just kind of trying to find everything.
And notably, there's no boss either.
Yeah.
You know, so it bucks the structure in that way.
Yeah, the boss is kind of the fortress itself. Yeah. You know, it's just kind of like figuring out the puzzles and everything.
Would you say the environment's a character?
I would.
Okay.
I would say. I'd say that New York City is actually the most important character in blank. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
the enemies are not too they aren't too remarkable. Like it's, you know, more of those eyeless water lizard tadpole things.
There's some knights, like some like night creature things.
I would like to say that they're in the process of being Widdified, but like
that's a cool idea.
I think we see where Widda happened later, so that might not be exactly the case. It could be more brain bugs.
Yeah.
And then some poison mushrooms that are kind of like hiding these deadly poison trap arrows, which notably they don't like. I don't think the poison drains your health, but it will lock you in place as more arrows hit you.
Yeah, and the so you're gonna put on the Widda bracelet, which is like one of the nice things is this dressing up like a Widda to get past those flames, is that you're not just the items actually have utility as well, and I think the bracelet is the one that makes you immune to paralysis.
Oh wow!
Which is really useful here and in the next area as well, because getting paralyzed is no fun.
Right.
No.
Then there are those falling trapdoors, like the big main one. So when we say trapdoors, we're not talking about like Mr. Burns' office. We're actually saying like the entire floor is mechanically on a hinge that drops you down, except for one safe area right in front of a chest, and then actually puts you outside in the ocean.
Yeah,
so
like on a ledge. Like think like when you're fighting the Hydra. Kind of thing, because if you go too far off from that, you'll fall into nothingness.
Yep. And then there's one room that's like a Resident Evil puzzle where you open the chest, I believe, to get the bracelet, and the room fills with poison gas. So you have to bust out the weak wall. Oh man,
it's very good. Like it's you can tell like just tons of care went into this area. So I love it.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, but you assemble the whole set. And the flames calm before you.
Yep. And it might be a good time to take a break. Cool. This episode is brought to us and brought to you and brought to people who are listening. so I've included all the groups.
Okay.
By Latchkey Kingdom, which is a webcomic, which we mentioned at the top of the show. You go to latchkeykingdom.com. You can find it there. It is great.
Yeah. So he reached out to us. We've actually talked about it on a previous Watch Out for Fireballs, which is another show on the network, kind of as, you know, an example of like, hey, this is a really good webcomic with great art. And it was really cool when he reached out to have us talk about it. So it's not just about video games. It's not, you know, gamer dudes on a couch kind of thing.
It kind of defies description in that because like it's you don't want to be reductive, and if you call it a gaming webcomic, it kind of is. Yeah. The way I think of it is that it rewards video game literacy, but does not require. So like knowing the references and being kind of, you know, knowing video games, specifically Legend of Zelda, helps a lot, and you'll get a lot of kind of references and cute kind of visual gags and everything. But it's not required. It's not like obnoxious because as we've mentioned before, webcomics are awful. So, with the exception of, this one and Perry Bible Fellowship and Achewood and just a very few, very small number.
Nedroid. Yeah. And so like in the gaming, like literacy, it very much is aimed at people with that history, but not exclusively. Like we said, it's like Adventure Time in that way. Mm-hmm. And it's like Adventure Time because of the whimsy, right?
What it reminded
whimsy.
me of, whimsy. Did you read, what it reminded me of? This occurred to me just before we started recording. Have you read Bone?
No, but I have heard that I should read Bone.
You should read Bone. You can get the complete collection of Bone for very cheap now. It's a big, huge black and white tome. It's very good. It is very similar to this, though, like a sense of youthful adventure. Mm-hmm. Is kind of, and like charm are the two twin weapons of Bone, and this shares a lot of kind of tonality with that.
Yeah, I feel like more and more there is a place for that in my life, mm-hmm. right? Like just I need to seek things out that kind of have that exuberance to it.
Well, it can't all be Berserk.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like this is kind of the anti-Berserk.
Yeah, it's like taking my antidepressant vitamins.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to take your antidepressants and your anti-Berserks.
Yep.
Of specific interest to listeners of this show, there is not only is it Legend of Zelda focused primarily, and kind of other video games, kind of depending on the arc, but there's also some Dark Souls kind of crossover stuff that he does for fun.
Yep.
So Latchkey Souls is the name if you go to the archive and go to mini stories. And they're just like the characters from the webcomic encountering bosses from Dark Souls so far. But he just started a new kind of mini comic about that.
Smo knocking the guy over the horizon, and instead of saying "you died," it says "home run."
Yeah, home run. Oh, I just like my favorite part of it. I like the Silver Knight. I just like, huh? Like when that happens, I like that a lot. It is a super cute touch. Mm-hmm. It is. The episode is brought to you by the webcomic, but we both actually really genuinely endorse it. Mm-hmm. So go check it out.
Go check it out. That is latchkeykingdom.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is also brought to you by Audible.com, which is your source for audiobooks and audio entertainment. There are over 150,000 titles for you to download and listen to for pretty much any device that I was about to say has a pulse, but I will say has electricity to it, which is kind of like Robot Pulse.
Yeah. Yeah, just read Latchkey Kingdom, and then when you need to, like a good downer, just read The Road, or have it read to you. And then just find the right balance between the two.
Save Pinchy.
Yeah, whimsy and despair.
Wispair.
Yeah. Yes.
So
there's probably a German word for those two things mixed together.
Schadensparsy.
Schadensparsy.
Yeah. So to get your weekly dose of Schadensparsy and a free audiobook of your choosing when you sign up for a 30-day trial of their subscription service, just go to audibletrial.com/bonfiresidechat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And on to Widda Castle.
Widda Castle. So we have dressed up in a probably offensive, like racist, like we're appropriating their culture, Gary. We've got their headdresses on.
Yeah. We just look like two regular humans, like in a trench coat, like sneaking into a Widda movie. That's definitely true.
I'll take two steak tickets, please.
It fools the stupid fire, though. But so you go into this castle, and this is kind of a weirdly laid out area in that. And one of the things that I really like that the Ancient City did, and this is the first time I realized it, even though it's been true throughout the whole game, is that structures are not symmetrical. So, like, when you go into a room and there are two hallways going to the right and left, they will have different terminuses and, lead to different areas. It is not like a lazy dungeon design, okay, well, I've done the East Wing, now I have to do the West Wing.
Yep.
The whole area is very, like, right-leaning. There's a lot more content kind of on the right of the temple or the castle.
Right and down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like even because even in spite of that, rather, I would say like the upper, like the superstructure of the Widda Castle, it's pretty unremarkable to me. Like it just kind of replaces the regular foot soldiers with Widda, which is fine. Like they're more fun to fight because they are a little bit more wily. They're the snake people of this game.
well, especially right after the fort.
Right.
I think like where this area comes to kind of comes to life is when you start getting underground.
Exactly. When you start fighting mummies and shit.
Yeah. Yep. Mummies. for some reason.
Yeah. Human mummies.
Yep. Who bust out of walls.
They think you're Abbott and Costello.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And they're tough too. Like mummies are tough enemies.
Also spread throughout this area, kind of in the Berserk connection, are these eggs that drain your mana on stands. So they're kind of like baylets. I was reaching for straws there, but it is weird, and you kind of have to knock them down before they get rid of your mana, because going back and refueling. I don't know. I think you have to leave like the warp points in this whole like wing of the city are very few and far between. I remember having to take a little jaunt out in order to refill, maybe like once or twice.
Yeah, I did this in a stretch because it is so, and it makes sense. Like, we're not going to put teleporters right in our base. This is like an enemy stronghold.
Yeah, we have to have the engineers get in there and do that.
Yeah, exactly. There is a teleporter, but it's actually after this area. Like between here and the egg field, there's a teleportation.
Yeah, it's on that balcony that overlooks the bridges to the egg field.
Yep.
But yeah, you get down into the basement, which is where the real interesting stuff happens. There are the mummies, which they're just damaged sponges, right? There's also
they take a long time to kill.
There's also that really long arrow hallway.
Yeah,
with that dick trap door down to Scorpion Land.
Yep. And scorpions are not too tough at this point. Like, you fought scorpions several times, but there are dozens of them. Like, it is very much scorpion like theme park.
There's something there about this area and vermin. So there's scorpions in one hole and snakes in the other. Like.
Just coming out of unlimited snake chutes. Like those little holes where snakes just fly out. Which, tons of snakes. Infinite snakes.
David Foster Wallace says infinite snakes.
This is where snakes come from.
Yeah. It's the origin story. Is that the lesson? Is that the moral? And this is where snakes came from.
I think that's the whole point of the game.
Okay.
They come from the dark. We should kill them all.
Yeah.
Notably,
2 giant snakes.
Yeah, who kind of pop up from holes like whack-a-mole things. And you kill these guys the same way I did. I felt cheap doing it, but I couldn't think of another way to do it.
Right.
Because they have like the game equivalent of like toxic. They give you like a stronger poison, and it takes place instantly. Like, takes effect more or less instantly through like breathing this cloud. So you kind of have to do this, duck in, shoot them, duck out.
Right.
Kind of strategy. I ended up using spells, I think, rather than the crossbow, but that was the only way I could get through them.
Yeah. The crossbow was so predictable, and I had so many bolts at this point that just like I got a lot of mileage throughout the rest of the game by using my crossbow and relying on it. Yeah.
I think I didn't feel like backtracking to the guy who sold the bolts.
Okay.
If I recall. Or I couldn't remember which of the merchants did.
It might be as recently as the engineer. Because that was around the time you got the crossbow, which depending, I forget where I put the markers, but it wasn't that much of a problem, and I think I only had to refill like maybe once.
Yeah, so much of it depends on where you put the markers, and you don't necessarily know where you're going to want to put the markers until you have a little bit more context. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of cool because like that is an individual choice that you make that kind of changes the topology of the game and of the city. So like stuff that like that was totally not a problem because I could warp back to so and so and so and so and so and so. Like a different person is going to have a different experience as opposed to everybody knowing like, oh, if you want to get to this place in Lordran, you have to warp to this bonfire, right?
Right. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Pretty neat. Also pretty neat is going down those snake holes.
Yeah. Yeah, the snakes that, after you kill the snake bosses, you go down the hole that they popped out of to continue even deeper into this like temple ziggurat kind of structure of the Widda. You run into an NPC here who's like the dark priest that we mentioned. His name is Akriel. And he's awaiting the Dark One. He's the one who, it's hinted at later as well, but he straight out says that the Widda are transformed knights, and says something about how the Swordmaster should not have been treated that way. So that you're coming up on where the Swordmaster is going to be. This guy is interesting too, because I thought he was going to turn hostile.
Me too.
He never does, but I killed him anyway.
Really?
Because
I guess there's no benefit to keeping him around.
Well, he's an evil snake priest. Like, he's awaiting the Dark One. I'm like, I don't want this.
He shows up later as you're placing the idol, and he's like, nope. Takes it and takes all the way back to your kingdom. Ah, shit.
Yeah, just teleport you back to the beginning.
Yep. You know what? I think that I would hate it in the moment, but in hindsight, I would also hate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's there. Like, and it's funny because even he respects the Swordmaster Septiego. And it's funny because like around here was the point where I realized like, hey, maybe the Swordmaster is not going to be the final boss of this game.
For some reason that never occurred to me in this game, even though like it would be in a Souls game. Yeah. Like this would be going to fight Artorias. And it never, and for some reason that just didn't come up to me. And I was like, Septiego's, just because everyone, the expedition was such a disaster, I was just expecting to find him dead, which you do. But I was expecting to find him, just kept thinking, okay, well, this is as far as he got. This is as far as he got. Yeah. And, eventually got to it. And it's kind of underwhelming. Like, I'm not saying I necessarily wanted him. Well, I guess I do. I would have rather had him be a boss. Yeah. Maybe like in some kind of snake transformation state or something like that. That would have been really cool. Yeah. Because it's kind of, not very ceremonious. The end that he got.
Yeah. And it's alluded to that he, was put through this torture. And it could be seen as like subversive. Too, that like just like, oh, you expected him, because like, let's face it, Swordmaster is a boss ass name.
Oh yeah, yeah. And he's your friend. Like, it seems like you guys are going to end up fighting. Yeah. At the end, not the case. Yeah. Yep. You always go up at the end of that, like you did it in the last episode. I edited a thing too, and it goes down.
I suppose it does.
Not to give you notes or anything. It just happened twice in very short succession. Just like.
I think that
it's been a while since Kole's seen that episode.
I think that I think what I'm actually referring to is the cable guy. When I do that, when they parody that scene, they may have used a similar but legally distinct version of that melody. Oh, okay. So that possibly. But yeah, I suppose they always do go up. I also don't have an ear for melody, so here we go. But before you find Septiego and get his lawful blade, you do fight Queen Widda, and I fought her the exact same way.
The coward way.
Snakes. Yeah.
Yep, me too.
No, the staying alive way, Gary. Come on.
Oh yeah, Well, she seemed more fightable to me than the giant snakes. Like if I wanted to be riskier, and if there was a save point closer, which there isn't one too far away, I think you could kind of go in there and get toe to toe with her. I think if you wanted to, and it would be reasonable. But I didn't, right? Because why would I? Yeah. Yeah. So the game allowed for it, and it still required. It was still a fight. Like she sends like there are snakes that will come out, and those creatures, right? Like she spawns those creatures that we saw from before.
Yeah, like little hench dudes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she shoots really, really big magic attacks that do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, take her down, and there's still like some treasure behind her. There's the Widda key, and that's what unlocks your way kind of like to the backyard of this castle, which is I think one of the creepier areas.
Yeah, I love this area. Which is the egg field, which is the Widda brood grounds. And it is a minecart puzzle area, which I was not expecting. But it does some clever things with it. You get to save right beforehand, and you have the teleporter, which I really like, because you're going to want to experiment. There's that one area that you go through it, and you can actually get off the minecart and go into that secret room in there, which is very cool.
Get a Wid crystal, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. which I don't think I used at this point. Like, at this point, I had honed down my spells to, like, these are the 3 I'm going to use.
It's like Bioshock.
Yeah, exactly. Except they're less interchangeable. Like,
Yeah.
it was more like, they seemed like the clear ones to use to me. Even though I was reading online, like, people use that Shadow Skin spell. Like, people actually really like that.
Yeah.
I never used it. But
I died a lot on these mine carts.
me too.
Specifically
they go
because
so
they're
fast.
They do
They
go
go like
very
Doom fast.
Yeah. They go fast, and like some of them you can't tell if the solution is to walk on the tracks. Because you totally can. Like, it doesn't stop you. Like, you don't fall.
They're not electrified.
They're not just rails, right? And so, like, I like that. There were a couple times where I was walking along them, and then just the track in the course of refreshing sent the cart back into me, and it knocked me off. Like, it shunted me over to the right, off of the off of the tracks. And so I was never quite sure what the proper way to go forward was, and that wouldn't matter too much anyway, because there are also just ones that just take you off of the ledge.
Yeah. Yep. Like, just broken tracks that still have infinitely spawning mine carts. They're just going into them for some reason or another. But still, like, they put the save point right in front of it. Like, I was happy to die here a bunch in order to kind of explore it. And it's one of those things where you set, from the very beginning, where you can kind of see all the tracks, kind of conceptualizing, like, okay, that area is, several stories above me and pretty far away, and I can see this string of track kind of leading there in a circuitous way. What combination of carts, do I have to do to get up to there? And it was cool. Like, I like this area a lot as well. So.
And like I said, it's pretty creepy because you have kind of these little burrows that are cut into the sides of the walls, and you have things gestating in there along with the regular Widda soldiers and poison water, and also these things that look vaguely like hydralisks.
I know they looked a lot like hydralisks.
Yeah.
And these guys, I wonder what they are in lore terms, because they don't go away. Like, we fight these guys for a while still, and after I thought we were no longer really in the Widda zone, but they're still around. So I wasn't sure. At first I thought maybe they were some kind of like larval form, or the Widda would turn into these, or maybe they're kind of like a pet kind of thing for them, or they watch the eggs, or they're part of the breeding process. But they show up in other areas as well, and I don't know if that was just the game reusing the enemy, or what.
Yeah. So like, how like this was mostly in the games, but then they brought it into the extended universe, and it was really dumb. But aliens, when the xenomorphs would so like when a face hugger goes on a human, it makes a different thing than when a face hugger goes onto a predator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might actually be the same thing. Like a different thing that is put through widification puts out something different. So what we're seeing are, humans. So these could be like a different species that is...
Maybe it's those, because it's the same, roughly like same size and shape as those water dragon things. And so maybe it's that.
Yeah.
That would make a sense.
That is the only rationalization that I can make for it, I believe.
Is that what, I mean, the problem I have with it isn't what they are. It's the fact that they show up in non-Widda branded areas.
Yeah.
Like they show up here in the Widda breeding grounds. They also just show up in some water caves for a while. So that's more the point.
The Widda show up in different places too. I mean, you see them well before and well after this area too.
Yeah, but they're like soldiers, and they're ambulatory and intelligent. Like these things, like I liked the idea of these things being like brood mothers.
Okay.
Like specifically being like, that's what I thought when I first ran into them. Like, shit, these are the mothers. Maybe this is where the egg. Well, these are the things that lay the eggs. But the fact that they just kind of show up as like wandering enemies felt a little weird.
They could be the females of the race too. Like
that's true.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know.
Or the males.
True.
Yeah.
We're not normative. That's cool.
Yeah. Normative.
Yeah. Snake person normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're down here so like if you're just kind of like proceeding around, you're going to find this gate that is watched over by a weird guy who is really terrified of the Widda and wants kind of like proof that you're not in line with them. And so you're going through this egg field in order to find these bronze colored eggs, one of which to give to the cannibal, so he will stop feasting on his friends, but the other of which to give to this guy, Burle.
Yeah, I didn't take it as he was wanting to make sure that you weren't in line with them. Like, I thought he was kind of like, the impression I got was that like he wanted a Widda egg. Mm-hmm. He was scared of the Widda, but I thought he was working for them.
Oh,
like he was like being kept for them as this gatekeeper, as this kind of servant. And he just wanted to eat a Widda egg because everybody wants to eat a Widda egg for some reason in this world.
Get your powers.
Yeah, I can't remember his exact dialogue, but the impression I got was definitely like, oh, they would be mad at me if I let you through.
Right.
Like something that implied a subservient relationship.
Okay. Yeah, and he is, there's no nice way to say it, a simpleton. Like, he speaks like a feral human.
Yeah, and that's, maybe why he didn't get turned.
And that's pretty much it. Like we're done with the main Widda capital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're into the home stretch. There's still a significant chunk left, but there's also a lot of optional area in the end that we'll be covering next episode.
Cool. So, since we're not doing dedicated extrasodes for these, I've kind of split the responses we've gotten up to this point up. And, let's kind of go through and what we're calling contact, responses, and cleanup.
Indeed.
Yes.
So real quick off the bat, we just want to say a quick thank you to preparetotry.com, who gave us a mention and threw us up on there. That is a website Some Kindly Soul has put together to help people get into Dark Souls and get into the Souls games. It has a very good beginner's guide on it, and then lists of resources, and we're up there with like Epic Name Bro and Vidya and such.
Yeah.
It's very flattering.
Yeah. To see your name in a list with people you really respect is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so thank you very much. Chris is the name of the guy who runs that, I think. So thank you, Chris.
I wonder if he participates. Chris is a very common name, and we have a lot of Chris's who respond. So
it's true.
True. I don't know. So there's some Kingsfield miscellany. I never know how to... I know it's a word. I just don't know how to say it.
I always end up saying miscellaneary, which is a different word, I think.
Okay.
I think that is a word, but I think it's... Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It's a bestiary of miscellaneous things. Yes. Staplers, glasses... VGA cords. I'm really just saying things I'm looking at. But Ed wrote in via the contact form saying, I was listening to the latest episodes on Kingsfield 4, and I noticed that one of the songs sounds extremely similar to Radiohead's song Knives Out. I believe it is the Ancient City Level 1 and 2. Inspiring name. That's what it's called in YouTube anyway. They were released at a similar time in 2001. I don't know why I felt the need to point this out, but there you go. I guess I just like when I find two songs that sound the same.
Yeah, that's all over the YouTube comments for that song. That's my favorite song in the Ancient City. And the many people on YouTube also pointed that out. Weirdly, like, I'm not a Radiohead fan.
Right.
But that song gets me pretty good. Yep. Like, something about that chord progression is very attractive to me.
Yeah. Exactly. If I'm going to listen to Radiohead, it's Kid A, and I like this song because it was originally supposed to be a part of Kid A. So,
yeah, that might be my favorite song in any of the Souls games. Like, really? I really like that song. Yeah,
it's great. Favorite is real strong.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But I do really, really like it. Mm-hmm. So
it's pretty good.
The main Estrella song is really good too.
Yeah,
that's really high up there. So,
true.
But yeah, thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Evan says via contact, I only played this game for about 5 minutes before getting fed up with the controls and shutting it off. But did anyone else get a strong Legend of the Hidden Temple vibe from the intro video? The narrator even sounds like Olmec. And then there are some links.
The cursed land lies deep in a dense, colorless forest. Hidden within this land is an ancient city, once known to the forest folk as the Holy Land.
You could start by running up the stairs to the crypt. Grab the book from the skeletons and pass into the pit of the pendulum. Knock over the column and climb into the king's storeroom.
Legends of the Hidden Temple is an old Nickelodeon show.
Yeah. That people who grew up in the 90s love referencing.
Yeah, I always get Legends of the Hidden Temple confused with another one where you're exploring through a house, like a mansion or something like that, and going like big styrofoam books, and you have to find like a flag.
Yeah.
I always get that confused, but it's not the same. Yeah, it does kind of sound similar though.
It does, just because of the cheesy voice acting. Yeah, and descriptions of ancient civilizations and such. So as we are approaching the end of our Origins season, there's some cleanup, of things that have been brought to our attention, specifically about Berserk, as the comments kind of keep rolling in. So we're going to mention a couple of these here. I forget, did you remember, so this was in the notes, you sent it over to talk about it. Do you remember if there was a listener who mentioned this, or if it was just kind of like something that was a general sentiment?
It was on the Facebook.
It was on the Facebook. Okay, so I apologize.
Yeah, so we apologize for not. Yeah.
Yeah. But the person on Facebook kind of posited this connection, or at least a line of influence between Berserk and Final Fantasy VII, namely an ascendant blonde pretty boy or blue-haired pretty boy, white-haired pretty boy, and his kind of dog-like, bruiser friend who is set out to defeat him. Right. Mm-hmm. Which
and the weapon thing is obviously the most similar thing.
Not true.
Like it's Cloud using the Buster sword, which is almost like a hunk of iron.
Yep.
More than a sword. But I think that's probably true, and I could see. I'm sure now that I've read Berserk, I bet you in all kinds of video games I'm going to see references and kind of allusions to it. Mm-hmm. Because it was so instrumental in Japanese pop culture. I think that I think that's probably the strongest parallel. I don't think the kind of the grander plot of Final Fantasy VII owes very much to it.
But I haven't read too far into the Millennium Falcon arc, but isn't he trying to kind of like recreate the Griffith trying to recreate the Promised Land in that?
It's like more like he wants to create his own kingdom.
Okay.
Like there's nothing to recreate.
Yeah.
But he's creating a world from scratch.
Yeah. Grasping at straws.
You can. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you like most things you can kind of generalize to make connections.
Yeah.
Like that. Like not you specifically, but like, it's easy to do that.
Yep.
Yeah. I think the most of the connection is a visual one. But that's just me.
Yep. Looking here, what's Will say, Gary?
Will says that he's just, super addicted to Dark Souls, and thanks for talking about it because we're assholes, and he's real addicted to it.
Super addicted to Berserk, you mean?
Yep, Berserk. What did I say?
You said Dark Souls.
Oh, well, I just Dark Souls 2 is coming out, guys.
Yep.
Berserk is what he actually said.
Yep.
So thanks for talking about it. You assholes, I am addicted. Yeah. Can't get enough.
We've gotten a lot of that actually, just or a fair amount of it. Of like, hey, we checked this out because you talked about it so much, and kind of sharing a similar arc with me, which was there was all of a sudden a reason to check it out, and I was happy I did it. So it's nice to hear that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And then finally, Blake wrote in, tying this all back into Dark Souls. He says, in honor of the podcast tackling Berserk, I'm doing a Guts mode playthrough in Dark Souls. Did a little research, and while this may not be how you do it, I like it, and I think it makes sense. So he says, great sword as the only main hand weapon, light crossbow, and eventually the Avalon as the first offhand weapon, pyromancy flame, and eventually chaos. Second offhand weapon. Chaos, what's he mean by that? Chaos pyromancy flame?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's using chaos pyromancy, but...
okay. Yeah. And then it says Fireball and the higher level variants, and Power Within, Berserker Rage as the only spells. Then he says this is armor progression. Knight Armor, Steel Armor, Black Knight Armor / Artorias Armor. Not sure which. Artorias fits better, but I just hate those ankles. So doing cosplay as we like to do. So far it's been hella easy. With Havel's Ring and Knight's Armor, I can medium roll to evade blows, and my Zweihander is one-shotting almost everything. Just finished Blighttown, so Sens is next. Not looking forward to Manus. Still haven't beaten him with my main yet, sadly. And the Artorias fight will be epic.
the cool thing about the Artorias fight is that's when you'll be able to get the Artorias armor.
Yeah.
And like if I were going to do this, I wouldn't use Power Within until I got the armor. It's like just story wise, like that's when I can use it.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I've seen other people do Berserk cosplay in Dark Souls and like YouTube PvP events and stuff. Pretty neat.
Yeah, it's just too bad you don't have the Dragon Bone Smasher.
Yeah. Yep. Indeed.
Yeah.
So what do we have by way of admin stuff, Cole?
Well, by way of admin, I will say that next time we're going to be finishing out Kingsfield 4, the Ancient City, and after that we're into Dark Souls 2 land. Yeah. So the first episode of that season is just going to be kind of like the first impressions. So I will say, like, if you are somebody who's going to be like us, doing some mainlining of the game on the day that it comes out, and the first couple days that it's out, send us your first impressions too. I mean, I'm interested in seeing those, and we may need some fodder for that first episode. This is just a decision to make that call that I've made without consulting Gary, so he can feel free to shoot that down now if he wants.
Well, otherwise it would be like because we're still going to do our intro episode.
Yeah.
So if we don't have some extra stuff to talk about, it'll be like a 5-minute episode.
True.
Like, it's great. I thought so too.
Uh-huh.
Well, next week. One thing we should probably address in advance is how we're going to handle, because we are going to mainline the game.
Uh-huh.
We're going to be through it. How we're going to handle spoilers.
Yeah.
For it, because Dark Souls, the way the lore works, you have to draw connections between areas, and we can be in an area and have to connect to something that comes later, so I think that we're just going to have to use our judgment as to what is kind of considered to be like not necessarily a twist, that's the wrong word, but I wouldn't listen to, similar to Dark Souls, I wouldn't listen to areas you haven't been to yet. But we may end up obliquely referring to, and we might do warnings or audio, beeps or something like that when we do those. But we it's not going to be a 100% safe place. So if you're going to listen to the show, you should play along with us.
Yeah.
Which I think you're going to be doing anyway. Mm-hmm. But that's what I would suggest.
We won't be starting the main game in earnest, and until like I think 2 weeks after the game is out, which for normal people is not enough time to beat a 40-hour game. But I agree with Gary. It's not going to be a safe place, but we will try and be considerate because we like to be sensitive to spoilers, and we want to let everybody have the same full experience that we have. We don't want to deprive you of that just because you're listening to a podcast on a bi-monthly basis or semi-monthly basis. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing next. Mm-hmm. As far as other shows you can listen to on the network, if you go to Duckfeed.tv, there are a whole bunch of them. Watch out for Fireballs, Those Damn Ross Kids, The Level. Check it out, Comrade, and then some archive shows as well. Mm-hmm. Some of which cover video games, some of which are comedy, but they're all worth your time.
Yeah. Abject Suffering.
Oh, yeah. Abject Suffering, which I forgot about. I want to make a real quick special mention. I obliquely talked about doing Souls Bowl before, and then it didn't happen because I was out of state. But we are doing it a week from when you hear this.
Oh.
We'll be streaming, and I'm not going to speed run because I haven't had enough time to practice. But we are doing a similar thing to last time, but with Demon Souls.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to stream a couch cooperative pass the controller playthrough of Demon Souls.
Cool.
Which includes at least one person, Nick, who's going to be there, who has never played it. And then my friend Tanner may come along, and if so, he's never played any Souls game. Mm-hmm. So people like watching that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Watch him suffer. Tune in. And details will be on the Facebook page.
Cool.
Segue.
Which you should totally check out. That is facebook.com/bonfiresidechat. As we're in the run up to Dark Souls 2, there are articles and funny videos that people are posting. Just about that. Catch the fever is all I will say.
And it's kind of funny. Like, those funny videos are for you guys because I'm not watching them because I don't want to have things spoiled. Like, some of them are funny and some of them are just Vatty videos. Mm-hmm. And since I'm trying to go in fresh, like. It's it's not a Facebook page for me right now.
I will say that I've dipped into them and like they're not spoilery. Like the majority of the ones that I've seen, and like if I did see one that was spoiled, like I didn't say this, so it's weird to say it now. If there was one that was spoilery, I would actually call it out and say, yeah, like maybe if you're trying to go in fresh, don't check that out. But so far as long as it's not been like direct preview coverage. I've checked them out, and there are some funny people doing funny work, and it is being shared by funny people on our Facebook page.
Indeed.
If you would like to support the network monetarily, you can do Duckfeed.tv/tipjar. Use the Amazon link there. And it doesn't cost you anything extra. It is your same Amazon experience that you would otherwise get, and that goes a long way towards helping cover the hosting for the network and the hosting for the website, all of those kind of things. And just in general, I would also say thank you again to our sponsor, Latchkey Kingdom. Once again, that is latchkeykingdom.com for a great webcomic that you should check out if you like good things.
Indeed. And until next time, what should they watch out for, Cole?
Brain bugs and snake people. Like don't let the brain bugs snakeify you.
Nope. Nope. Eggs.
Watch out for eggs.
Watch out for hunger.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
Watch out for that guy that's giving you the side eye.